90,000 hours. According to Forbes.com, the average person spends 90,000 hours working in their lifetime. No sleeping or eating, just pure work. Mathematically, this is roughly 10 years of just working. According to Statista, the average life expectancy of a Canadian in 2020 is roughly 82 years, 1/3 of which we already spend sleeping. What do we do in the remaining 2/3? That's what's so interesting, because in spite of all the differences there are between people, one near universal trend is those 90,000 hours of work. Furthermore, regardless of what you choose as a profession, you have to contribute your 90,000 hours somehow. On top of that, every single person watching here at home has already worked, will work, or will continue to work in the future. So, this begs the question: how does one person's time compare to that of everyone else's? I myself entered the workforce more than a year ago, and while I obviously haven't contributed my 90K yet, I've still put more than 800 hours in the service industry, for better or a lot worse. Well, how about that question asked earlier in relation to me? Is my pay equal to my value to society? How do I compare to that of a doctor, lawyer, or engineer? And lastly, how can we strive to make those 90,000 hours as easy as humanly possible? To begin with, I'd like to dispel some common misconceptions and cliches. Every single job is hard in its own way. Sometimes it's obvious, like in coal mining or rocket science, and other times not so much, like in fast food and retail, for example. For instance, janitors, God bless their hearts, have an unbelievably thankless job. They have to pick up the litter, clean up the floors, vacuum the carpets, and do so much more. Additionally, just because a job looks easy doesn't mean it is easy, and that thinking undermines the value of the job itself. Before going any further, let's first look at what not to do. One gentleman, who is a regular, says he has an issue with his coffee. And this is where the headache begins. Enjoy the journey with me, folks. Now, most fast food places are quite lax with placing food. If something's within reason, they'll give it to you, no problem. So, he says the coffee has no sugar, which again is a fair complaint. However, massive however, a really big however, a gargantuan however, what he does next puts him squarely in the wrong. At this point, he's already frustrated, and I begin to apologize to him. But instead of accepting my apology or ignoring it, he gets more worked up. He says something to the effect of, "All you guys do is apologize, I want a solution." And then proceeds to throw the coffee all over the place. So, as you might be thinking, I was confused, puzzled, angry, everything in one. Ironically, not only did he waste my time, but he wasted his as well, and everyone that was waiting in line for their food. If he had just taken the replacement, went on his way, all of this could have been avoided no problem. And yet, he didn't do that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what not to do. He didn't respect me as a fast food worker, and he didn't respect anyone's time. I was beyond frustrated. I'm still beyond frustrated. Thankfully, now that we know what not to do, we know what we should do. One time, I was working in the restaurant, as one does when they're a McDonald's worker, and a peculiar man came to the counter. He wasn't just any man, barely even a man. He was a little bit different. He had a big bushy red afro, some pasty-looking makeup on his face, and an assorted mismatch of dirty-looking clothes. The man was a clown. A real, actual clown. That's weird, you might be thinking, and it is. So, he comes to the counter, and he orders food, as a clown does, because I guess they're hungry. I don't know. You're just as lost as me. So the clown orders, and matter of fact, the clown does a good job ordering, which is another layer of weirdness. In fact, I would go so far as to say the clown actually treated our time respectfully. He didn't add anything weird. He wasn't shifting around and just doing whatever. He treated our time respectfully. He did a really good job ordering. When I finished the order, we both understood it was done. I gave him the bill and change. That was that. And while he was doing the order, he was very involved. He was listening very intently. He was looking at me directly in my eyes, like I'm looking at you at home. And he was very, very present. Very, very present. Still, you're thinking everything's good in the world. The clown gets his food. He's sitting at the table. I'm sitting at my table. We're done. What you might be thinking. And I wish that was the case. But what happens next is truly one for the history books, folks. Truly one for the history books. So as I'm minding my business, I'm barely getting paid enough to mind my own business. I can hear the clown off in the distance. I can hear the clown. I didn't want to hear the clown, but I did hear the clown. I hear the clown murmuring something about Satan. So we already have a clown at a McDonald's, satanic clown, murmuring about Satan. That's like too many layers of weird, man. Like I don't get paid 14 whatever per hour to deal with that. But even still, he ordered well. That's like 4 different levels. The clown ordered well. So let's put this into perspective. A satanic clown ordered better than some grown men and women. Let that sink in. I gave you a couple seconds. I know you need a little bit more, but we have to keep going. So the clown orders well. That's great and all, but why is it that he ordered well? Why do we have to emphasize that? I'll tell you. The reason why it's important that we treat others with respect and civility in any body of work, it doesn't have to be just fast food, is because of something called reciprocity. You'd want others to do the same for you. The golden rule, kind of. So the clown orders well, but why is it important that he orders well? It's because of something called reciprocity. You'd want someone else to do the same thing for you. Muhammad Ali actually has a really good way of putting this. He says, I don't trust anyone who's kind to me but rude to the waiter, because they would treat me the exact same way if I was in that position. Frankly, you don't have to be me, you don't have to be the janitor, you don't have to be the waiter, because I can absolutely assure everyone watching at home today will have at least one job, just one in their lifetime that they absolutely dread, detest. And unfortunately, one that will also be looked down upon by society as well. With that being said, why is it that we have to compare jobs when we're all fundamentally grinding for such an unbelievably large amount of time? For nearly 100,000 hours. If we're all contributing to the society, why does it matter if we're picking and choosing which one's better, which one's more prestigious, anything like that? Thankfully, as the clown ordered so well, I want to give you guys a few instances that will highlight how you can actually apply his order-taking skills in any other aspect of your life, more specifically, interacting with other jobs. So, our first tip, treat time like you would money. In our society, we feel so guilty if we lose even so much as $1. How about a minute? The thing with time is that it's universal, meaning if you waste my time, you're wasting yours as well. And frankly, anyone else who might be involved, like the coffee guy, for example. He wasted everyone's time, and you can't get time back as you would money. So what the clown did well is he was direct. He told me exactly what he needed, nothing more, nothing less. If he'd and awed, it would have been such a prolonged and convoluted process. However, he avoided that by simply telling me what he needed. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but be like the satanic clown from McDonald's, as weird as it sounds. Second thing second, maintain a mutual understanding. Again, going back to the clown. When he had taken the order, we both understood it was over. Unlike some other people, he didn't add anything after he had paid. Otherwise, we'd have a second order, and then he had to wait for the second order, and the second receipt, and all that, and all that, and all that. It would have been way more complicated. Instead, he simply told me what he needed. We both understood that the transaction was over, and left it at that. It doesn't even have to be fast food, because we know in any other circumstance, for someone to fulfill your request, they first must understand what you're asking first. If the clown was adding another sandwich, adding another one, and then adding another one, he doesn't even know what he wants, therefore I can provide that for him. So, to avoid the unnecessary, convoluted, massive mess, make sure that everyone understands what the other needs to be successful. So both people can walk away knowing that they are satisfied with whatever contribution they made in the transaction, or any service for that matter. Thirdly, and this one most importantly, especially in today's climate, listen to understand, not to reply. I'll say it once more. It's simple. Listen to understand, not to reply. Oftentimes, in our society, we think what we have to say is more valuable than the person and the receiving end of the conversation, when that's untrue, completely untrue. Back to the clown. If he was ignoring what I was saying, didn't have any stake in the order-taking process, and was in his own fantasy land, which I guess is what a clown does, his food would be completely messed up because I don't understand what he wants. Instead, he listened, he looked at me directly, and understood what he needed. Therefore, I was able to provide that for him. Besides fast food, besides any professional setting, and any circumstance in your life, if you listen well, you will find that things become so much easier, whether it be personal, academic, professional, anything. Ladies and gentlemen, we've gone through a lot today. Let's do a quick summary of the 3 tips that we discussed earlier. First things first, treat time like money. If you treat time like money, you won't just spend it wherever you go. Second thing second, if you maintain a mutual understanding, there will be no mistakes within the request that you're providing to whoever you're providing it to. Thirdly, lastly, and most importantly, listen to understand, not to reply. That speaks for itself. Let's backtrack even further. In the introduction, we discussed a lot about numbers. So you spend 90,000 hours. In actuality, 10,000 hours alone makes you the best in the world at something. Which, more math, in one lifetime, with all the time you spent working, you could have been the best at 9 things. Let's give you some tangible examples. In one lifetime, you could have been Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, a couple other people I'm forgetting, but you know they're really rich, famous, and powerful, whatever else. You could have been all those people in one lifetime, but you spend all that time working, breaking your back just for a living, when you could have been rich, famous, powerful, successful, whatever. All that to say is that every single waking moment of our lives is spent trying to thrive, to succeed, to make it. If that's the case, why don't we treat every single person's time with dignity and respect, whether it be the janitor or the CEO, whoever else it may be, because everyone provides a service to our society some way. Everyone's body of work, everyone's 90,000 hours, everyone's contribution to our society should be respected, should be held to high regard, and we shouldn't compare them. However, if that sappy stuff isn't your cup of tea, just rest assured knowing that leaving this speech, you should be a satanic clown at McDonald's.